Oh, man, it's good to have you all here. Today I'm talking about holy smoke. Holy smoke. And holy spelled H-O-L-I. Tomorrow is the festival of Holi, and it's celebrated in many parts of the world, in India and in Nepal and in various places. And it represents the victory and power of light over the darkness, the power of good over evil. And so in various places throughout India, there will be big bonfires to signify, like in the night, there's this light. And so all of us are to be light workers. All of us are to be workers to bring forth that light. Instead of cursing the darkness, we're to be a flashlight for somebody. We're to be a flashlight for ourselves. I can remember back in Wichita, Kansas days, every year they would have this river festival. There's a big river that goes through Wichita, Kansas, which in Kansas we lovingly call the Arkansas River. Yes, it's spelled like Arkansas, but in Kansas we pronounce it Arkansas River. And we would have this big festival, and we'd be having this hunt for the river medallion. And I was out on a stormy, stormy day, torrential rain, high winds that blew over a truck close by to me. And I was out there hunting for River Festival medallion. And someone who had been hiding under a bridge came out and started getting my attention by shining their light on the ground because I couldn't even see where I was going. And then they kind of led me with the light to get to shelter because I couldn't see where I was. That's what we're here to do. We're here to shine that light, not just to hunker down and say, well, sorry for those guys that are out there, but you know, that person came out into that torrential storm that was blowing stuff over to help me. And we're here to bring that light. And I want to tell you a little bit about the story of Holi. This is a special account of a young man, a young boy, by the name of Prahlad. When Prahlad was only 4 or 5 years old, he wanted to just love God and serve other people. He had a servant's heart, little boy named Prahlad. And you might think, well, that's great. But it was kind of difficult because he was from a family of demons. And so here was this boy from the family of demons who wanted to totally love and serve God, and his father was the king, Hiranyakashipu. Let's say that name together. Hiranyakashipu. Let's say it one more time. Hiranyakashipu. So Hiranyakashipu was this asura, that's the Sanskrit word for demon. And he wanted all the glory to go to him. He didn't want anyone else to get the glory. He wanted to be the one to receive all the glory. And here was this little boy loving God. Oh, he couldn't stand that. And no matter what he did, little Prahlad wanted to continue to serve God and serve others. And Hiranyakashipu began to come up with conspiracies to kill his son. He thought, I'll bring in some poisonous vipers, poisonous snakes. And yet, Prahlad did not die from the poisonous snakes. Hiranyakashipu went out and got a huge elephant and had the huge elephant to trample on his son Prahlad. But the huge elephant was not able to kill Prahlad. He had Prahlad thrown into a deep well. He did all kinds of things to kill his little boy Prahlad, to try to change him. He wanted his son to grow up to be arrogant and stern and egotistical and critical and abusive, just like his dear old dad. But little Prahlad wanted to continue to pursue God and love God. Hiranyakashipu thought, what am I going to do? So, in a moment of desperation, he turned to his family. And it's a family of demons. So he turns to his sister, Holika, from which we get the name Holi. Holika. And she was a demon that had this special garment that would wrap around her. This garment would protect her from the power of fire. She could be in intense fires, and it would never hurt her as long as she had on her special cloak. And so Hiranyakashipu said to his sister, coax my little boy Prahlad to sit on your lap. You're his aunt. Tell him you want him to come and sit on your lap. And then we'll envelop you with a great, huge fire. And Prahlad will burn in the fire, but you will be okay because of your special cloak. And so Holika did that and got Prahlad to sit on her lap. And there was a huge, huge fire. But God, Vishnu, saw what was happening. And so he wanted to spare Prahlad. And he had a big wind come up and blow the cloak off of Holika and envelop and surround Prahlad. So Holika burned up in the fire, and Prahlad was saved. I love that. And so you have these fires burning all over India and various places to signify that no matter how bad things may look, there is a power and a presence that is greater. There is a power and a presence that is greater than any circumstance. That in fact, whatever those circumstances may be, no matter how much they may try to distract us or dissuade us from our faith, if we stand firm in our faith, if we stand firm in source, if we stand firm in that one presence and one power, nothing can overcome it. And that's demonstrating the power of strength. This month, I'll be talking about the power of strength all month. It's one of the 12 powers signified by the color green. Yeah, it goes with St. Patrick's, right? That way you can think of it. So in February, pink goes along with Valentine's Day, the power of love. March, green goes with the power of strength, perseverance. It's the power to endure, to keep going no matter what circumstances may bring up. Now, the thing about truth, the thing about spiritual principles is that you can see them in any particular tradition. When I've studied Judaism, when I've studied Kabbalah, I've seen those same principles. When I have studied Taoism, Buddhism, Hinduism, you can see these same principles rising up because they are built into the fabric of existence. They're coming from that realm of the absolute, from truth. Charles Fillmore spoke of this realm of the absolute from which we draw ideas and manifest. So I want to give you another account of another story that shares a similar truth. And this comes from Daniel chapter 3 in the Hebrew scriptures in the Bible. And I asked this morning, and I'll take a poll now, how many of you here have ever heard of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego? Pretty good group of people. I came into the office this week and asked, and at least those who were there at that time hadn't. So Daniel chapter 3, we have this king named Nebuchadnezzar. Nebuchadnezzar had an ego problem. Nebuchadnezzar believed that anything he said should be law, should be rule, and that if anyone disobeyed it, they should be killed. They should be punished. He believed it is all about him. So, King Nebuchadnezzar, in chapter 3 of Daniel, built this statue that was 90 feet tall. Now, Now, the Hebrew scriptures say 60 cubits. A cubit is about 18 inches. It depends on the length of one. From the elbow to the tips of your fingers is a cubit, about 18 inches. So 60 cubits is about 90 feet tall. That's a tall statue, and 9 feet wide. And he's declared that any time you hear the sound of my special music playing, you must bow down and worship the statue I have made. If not, I have a fiery furnace, and I will throw you into the fiery furnace, and you will be killed. So you better worship my statue. Well, there were 3 young Hebrew men, and we have the slide. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. That's their Babylonian names that were given to them. And they only knew of one power, one presence. They didn't want to worship other gods or a statue that Nebuchadnezzar had dreamed up. And so they did not fall down and worship the golden statue. And it got reported to the king. We have 3 young men. You know, they were like hustling them in there. We have these 3 young men who will not bow down to your statue. And you've said that they must be killed in the fiery furnace. Nebuchadnezzar was angry. He's like, let's go into my office. Like being called into the principal's office. And he's like, okay, maybe you guys didn't understand. When the music plays, you're supposed to bow down and worship. Now, if you'll do that, well and good, we're good. If not, there's a fiery furnace. You got it? And they said, oh, king, you know, they've never done anything bad towards Nebuchadnezzar or anything like that, but, oh, king, we cannot. We can't bow down. We can't bow down to your statue. We can't bow down to these other gods. We only know this one God. We know this one power, this one presence, and we can't do it. Oh, Nebuchadnezzar was furious. He told the guards, heat up that furnace 7 times hotter than before. I don't know what kind of thermostats they had. How did they determine 7 times hotter? I don't know. But he said, heat it up 7 times hotter. And so they tied them up, put them in bonds, and he had the guards throw them into this furnace that was heated 7 times hotter. And it was so hot that the guards died. Even though they didn't go in it, it was so hot, they died. And Nebuchadnezzar's looking. He's like, didn't I just put 3 guys in there? I see 4. And the 4th looks like a son of the gods. Huh. And he saw the guys walking around. You know, it was before the coronavirus thing, so they're giving each other high fives, and they're like, we got nothing to worry about. They were determined to do what they believed, to do what they believed in, to stand in source. Whether it turned out good or not, they were going to stand in their truth. And so Nebuchadnezzar's like, hey, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, come out here. So they come out. Yep, the bonds were gone. Maybe the fire had burned away those bonds, those ties that they had put on them. There wasn't even the smell of smoke on them. Their hair wasn't singed. Their garments weren't hurt at all. And Nebuchadnezzar's like, well, I guess I'll make up a new decree. So he came up with a new law. Anybody who speaks against the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, I'll put them to death. He liked to make decrees, Now, both of these accounts tell us about the power of standing in your truth, of standing in source, no matter how things appear on the outside, of standing in that one power, that one presence, which we know as God, the good omnipotence, of standing in that truth, standing in source, knowing that nothing can prevail against you. As Paul said in Romans chapter 8, if God be for us, who can be against us? Right? So we stand in that power. We stand in that source. So as we celebrate Holi and as we celebrate International Women's Day, we think about those who have stood in their truth, who have stood on principle, and who have persevered, exercised the power of strength, and win. Because of the power of standing in their truth, exercising strength. So there's a couple of lessons I just want to bring out of these accounts. One is, no matter what you're experiencing in your life, know that the presence of God is there, fully, completely. That you cannot divide, diminish, dilute God in any way. That presence of God is as surely there as anywhere else. You are fully surrounded, filled, and projected forth as the presence of God. Paul in Acts chapter 17 says, in God we live, move, and have our being. You are that expression of God. Unity has 5 basic principles. We have a lot of principles, but 5 basic ones. The first one is there's only one power and one presence, active as our lives and as the universe. God, the good omnipotence. So the second principle follows from that. That means that each and every one of us are that expression, are that outpicturing, are that self-livingness of that presence of God. Kistrin was holding up a book, The 5 Principles. We have that available in the bookstore by Ellen Davenport. So you are the outpicturing of that presence. And you can stand in that presence and know that wherever you are, God is, that there is no spot where God is not, that everywhere you are, God is. I don't know what you may be going through. You might be going through a difficult time in your family or with your job. Maybe there's someone with whom you have great resentment. Maybe you're in a challenging situation of some sort. Maybe it's health or finances, whatever the particular form your fire has taken, know that you are not alone in the fire. Just like those 3 guys were thrown in the fire, there was a 4th one in there with them. You are not alone. Wherever you are, God is. Secondly, as we heard in that reading from Keep It True Lent, which is by Charles Fillmore, and as we know from the principles of scriptures and spiritual teachings, fire is a purifying agent. One day I was walking by Santa Fe Lake, close to Wichita, Kansas. It's out in the country. I spent a lot of time out there. And I was walking down a deserted dirt road. And there was just a little something that was buried down in the dirt clods that caught my eye. And I thought, what is that? I went over and I pulled it up out of the dirt, and it was one of those big old class rings. It was beaten, it was dirty. I don't know, it'd probably been in the dirt for a long, long time. I took it to a friend of mine who creates jewelry. And, he said, and jewelers will sometimes say, well, sometimes there's some gold in these things, a lot of times not a lot, but we can see what we can do with it. I was wanting a particular ring created, and I thought I wanted to contribute to the gold in that ring. And he got back with me. He said, it turns out there's quite a bit of gold in that ring. And so, he refined it and worked with it, and we made this ring. And it's the only one like it in the world, because he carved the wax mold, which was taken from a 14th or 15th century Italian painting of the Holy Grail, and designed this ring. And I talked to him sometime afterwards, and he said, I've never used that mold again. It's the only ring like it. And I thought about that refining process. You have to use heat to refine gold. You are the presence of God. You are gold. And sometimes that fire, that heat, is for our refinement, is to burn away those bonds that are binding us, to snap them loose so that we are free, so that we are able to stand in source, in truth, no matter what the circumstances are, and know that we have a power, we have a presence that is living itself forth as us that nothing can defeat, and nothing will ever be able to shake or diminish, because it is the presence and Spirit of God. And that's what you are. That's what you got going in you. So don't dampen it. Let it forth. Let it come forth. And when you do, when you connect with that presence of Spirit within, you connect with the power and the presence that is God. And that is our source of strength. That is our source of perseverance. When we stand in that, when we know that, nothing can diminish or defeat us. Thank you. And let's do an affirmation. I am on fire with the presence of God. Nothing can defeat me, because I stand in source. And so it is. Amen.